Dave?
Recording in progress.
We're good to go.
Okay. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Midcoast Community Council for August 10th, 2022. Dan, would you call the roll, please?
Yeah, sorry. Okay, Claire?
Here.
Greg?
Here.
Michelle?
Here.
Len?
Here.
Dave?
Here.
Jill?
Yes, here.
And I'm here, so we're all here. Great.
Okay, thank you. There will be several formal opportunities for the public to speak this evening. First is a public comment, which will immediately follow this. Also, and at that time, you can speak up to 3 minutes about anything not on the formal agenda. And what's on the formal agenda tonight is the emergency mental health services for the Midcoast, the Caltrans multi-asset roadway rehabilitation project, and some MCC issues around mailing lists. And so those things, we'll open public comment for each of those individually as they come up. So right now, let's open public comment for anything not regularly on the agenda. If you have a comment, please raise your hand. You can do that down in the reactions tab at the bottom of the screen. I'm going to start with the community, and I'll come to council members who might have public comment, but I'm not sure. But we'll start with Gus, please. Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. My name is Gus Monomal, and I just wanted to announce that I have filed to join the Midcoast Council, and hopeful that that works out. I want to really extend a very heartfelt thank you to Dave Olson, who's spent some time with me on multiple occasions to kind of educate me about the council, how it works, and I really appreciate that. And I do hope to reach out to the other members of the council and just, kind of hear your perspective on kind of what it's like, how it works, just so I can really hit the ground running, assuming that that I do make it. So thank you again, Dave, and look forward to hopefully working with the rest of you.
Thank you, Gus.
Question, did you switch the agenda around, Claire?
I don't think so. What are you noticing?
First is Board of Supervisors report.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do a little more public comment and close that out and then go to Board of Supervisors, if that's okay with you.
Oh, it's not a bad order. I just wondering.
Okay. Last time I skipped over public comments, so I wanted to make sure I got it in. Angel? Oh, yes, go ahead. Angel? Angel?
Oh, yes. Can you see me?
No.
Okay, I'm on my husband's computer and I don't think he has a webcam on it, but I'm glad you can hear me. So I'm joining this meeting because I'm actually neighbors with Mark. I live here in El Granada. And one of the concerns I have, and I'm going to find out there's quite a few neighbors that actually have the same concern, has to do with the sidewalks on Avenue Portola. It's an artery street. It's a main street that we walk on quite a bit to get to the post office, and there's obstructions on the sidewalk. And I'm just trying to get some clarity as to what the rules or laws are with regards to obstructing the sidewalks. It's the road itself is very challenging. One, because there's a lot of slope to the street, and the gutters are extremely wide and deep. You can't walk against the sidewalk area where it's obstructed, because you can't walk in those gutters because they're extremely dangerous. There's a lot of broken concrete in there. There's a lot of algae in there. There's constantly water running through there, and it's just extremely difficult to walk on. And so when you're trying to get through to get around the obstructions, sometimes you're forced to jump onto the street. And in addition to having to jump onto the street and you're already 2 feet away from the sidewalk, then there's the other issue where when cars park, cars can't park against the sidewalk because of the gutters of the way they are. So therefore it brings them out even further out to the street, and you're having to walk around that. And sometimes the cars are coming down the street 30 to 40 miles an hour, and you're like dodging cars. And a lot of the streets here in El Granado do not have sidewalks. And I walk a lot in the neighborhood and I see that. But I do see that Isabella, the street Isabella, which is also probably more of a higher traffic area, does have sidewalks. And it's just so much safer there because you have somewhere to walk on when the cars are coming down the streets really fast. So anyway, my concern, I have concerns of safety. I've walked on a street, I twisted my ankle, not hurt my ankle, but just kind of twisted my ankle because of all the obstruction as you're trying to get down to the post office. I walk daily, and that street just is a difficult street to walk on. And there's a home on Francisco and Avenue Portola that has made an improvement, and they improved their sidewalk, they improved the road, and it's just that in itself makes that part of the road much easier to walk. But as you're heading down the road, there's a few homes there that are obstructing. And I guess what I'm here in this meeting to try and understand is, are these public sidewalks, and who is responsible to see that they're maintained and obstruction is clear so that it makes it a clear path for the residents to walk as they're walking down the street.
Okay, thank you, Angel. And we will have a Board of Supervisors report afterwards, which may be able to address some of this, I'm not sure.
Thank you.
And let's see, the next person is Mark Wilbanks.
Yes, hello, everyone. I wrote up a pretty detailed description of my efforts over the last 2 years to get the county to clear those sidewalks. I'm unsure what the process is in this advisory council to have some communication with our elected officials about this matter. Is there any guidance you can provide on that?
We can't discuss public comment topic directly in the meeting unless it, but I think that Lena may be able to shed a little bit of beginning light on it. She says she'll be able to address some of it when her turn comes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Danny Turway.
Thank you. Good evening. Just on the topics of fire preparedness locally, 2 issues. One, I don't think we had the walkthrough of Quarry Park as of the last MCC meeting. That was a Friday or 2 ago. We walked through with Parks Department, MCC, RCD on the Delphine shaded fuel break, and saw the fuel removal there, and talked about the possibility of ideally getting a fire road in Western Quarry Park somewhere. And that was topic 1. The second was this morning's Fire Safe San Mateo County Council meeting that Len and I attended. A couple other community members from the coast, Keith was there. Focusing on the RCD scoping project and the questions that are coming from the community members. We were given a few minutes to talk about that. Joe Issel was there from RCD and said that he and Kellex would be the points of contact for further questions regarding the details of how the modeling was done and how the report was prepared rather. And we're in further talks to see if we can have a follow-up meeting on the side with, at a minimum, RCD, if not possibly the consultants as well, to explain the modeling. That's it for that. Thank you.
Thanks, Danny. Bob,
Me?
you. Okay.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I wanted to comment on what Mark and Angel just talked about, which is the sidewalks on Portola. Portola, think of it as old Portola and new Portola. Portola from Obispo, which is the 0-100 block, through the 300 block are equipped with curbs and sidewalks. And I cannot receive mail at my home. So on days that I don't drive, that I don't have to leave El Granada, I have to walk to the post office. And in the 300 block, there's so much obstruction and things growing on the sidewalk and things being built across the sidewalk that I'm forced to walk out on the street. And you have to duck in and out because there's cars along there. Fortunately, I can still hear fairly well. So I hopefully will hear the cars coming up behind me if I step out, but I'm very careful to check anyway. So it's a hazard to me just trying to go down to get my mail. Coming the other side, I have the other problem. If I'm driving, then there are people that are zigzagging back and forth from the cars out into the middle of the street and back off to the side again. If at least one side of the street could have those sidewalks cleared so that I can walk the 300 block just as I can from the 200 and the 100 and the 0-100 block. I can use sidewalks all the way down there to the post office, but the 300 block not. Now, it's been a good start there on the corner of Francisco and Portola. They've really done a beautiful job of fixing up the sidewalks, and other people along that side of the street have also done some work to clear those sidewalks up. But you cannot walk down you cannot walk down Portola and stay on the sidewalk. You just cannot. So I think it would be great if that could be corrected.
Okay, thank you. Yvonne, you want to go?
Hey, I'm not a walker per se because of mobility issues and lack of cartilage in my foot and gammy hip and all that sort of thing, but I do drive every day. And I will say that the main obstruction that was in the form of a bush that was so overgrown that I couldn't see cars coming from the side. And a couple of times I've almost been hit broadside by a car zooming through, not realizing that I was coming down Portola. And that was a concern to me. And I could also see from the car that the sidewalks, there basically wasn't a sidewalk, or there was just a 12 inches or something like that, and you couldn't really walk on it. So it seems to me that if there was a sidewalk put there, it was meant for a purpose and it shouldn't be obstructed.
Okay, thank you. Steve Terry.
Thank you. There seems to have been a coordinated effort here to talk about sidewalks at the open comment period. And so I appreciate that. I'm glad to hear that there's concern about this. My comment about that is that the county seems to be a little bit inconsistent, maybe schizophrenic about how it manages this sort of stuff. And what I have seen is the county impose that some people fix their sidewalks and their rule of thumb is if the sidewalks are off by like half an inch bump or something like that, you have to fix it. But then you can walk through El Granada and there's stuff all over the place because the town has trees going all along the streets. So this is a real common problem in El Granada. The county used to maintain the sidewalks, but apparently they've shifted, or they are shifting, or have shifted that responsibility to the property owners. And so I don't know where that stands, but it seems like it's being enforced inconsistently, very inconsistently, and I would say unfairly, kind of like 14th Amendment type inconsistency. But anyway, I would like to see this issue more generally put on the agenda at some future meeting. I think this is a great agenda item. Now, this maybe only applies to El Granada, but it may apply to other unincorporated areas as well. I don't know. Thanks for listening to my comments.
Thank you. And thanks to the community members who are bringing things to our attention. And that's the only way anything is going to happen is if people know what's going on. Maureen.
Yes.
Maureen?
Yes, I also live in El Granada, and I didn't realize this topic of streets was going to come up. But make no mistake, I totally concur that it would be a great agenda item, because the county already in the front of my house has come through and they shave the streets. It looks horrible, it looks like hell, but they shave it so you don't trip. But since then, there's been additional earth movement. So they need to focus on, some of the needs of the community, like the streets in El Granada. And maybe, and one thing maybe Lena could even check out through some authorities. But once before, when I was raising this with someone who did serve on the MCC or, in government, and he was indicating something about it being like 30 feet from, if the sidewalk is within 30 feet of something or other, then it would be the county responsibility. And I'm also just raising this question because really I would like to redo the front of my garage area, the driveway. And I just wonder, do I have the free ability as a citizen to go and pull up my sidewalks and redo them? It's a very confused issue on who has responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you, Maureen. I don't see any other hands raised, so I'll close public comment. I think Greg has an announcement to make. Is that correct?
It's kind of an announcement comment.
We don't do public comment from council members. But we do announcements.
All right. Well, then let me announce that Bob Nisbet has joined us and is going to be leaving. And if I could just take this moment to tweak our friends from Half Moon Bay, I'd mention that they can see how beneficial having an open chat is for the community's participation in these meetings. On to you.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to presentations and reports from other government agencies. We'll start with Lena. It sounds like you've got some public demand for.
Yeah, that's great. No, it's awesome. And I just have to say, the MCC has done a great job representing y'all. Mark, as soon as Greg got your memo, he sent it to me and wanted to make sure that the supervisor was aware. So the MCC was already representing you on this issue. Absolutely. So let me touch on the things I had written about, and then I'll touch on the things that came up at the meeting. So I'll go pretty quick. I'm not going to go over the COVID data, but if anyone wants it, I'm happy to share it. We're still in the high tier. Most of the state is. This is a much longer phase of high transmission than we've experienced in prior periods. And we're really strongly recommending that if you're in an enclosed area, that you wear a high quality mask and you increase ventilation by opening windows. Also, just want to put on everyone's radar, we do expect a fall rollout of an Omicron specific booster, and that will be available for everyone 12 and up. Also, I know that there has been some confusion and concern about the limited accessibility to a monkeypox vaccine. My understanding is that as of right now, there's very limited supply, so we are prioritizing higher risk groups. There is a eligibility guideline that I'll share a link for, as well as a form that you can basically fill out, and we'll collect your information and kind of evaluate your risk factors. And if you are eligible, we can get you set up with the vaccine. And then my last two things before I go to the things that came up at the meeting, something that Supervisor Horsley is bringing to the board at our next meeting is to create an ad hoc committee to conduct research and community engagement processes for the establishment of a civilian oversight committee for the sheriff's office. And Supervisor Horsley is going to propose that be Supervisor Pine and Supervisor Slocum. He would usually be all for it as being the prior sheriff. But just because he has limited time left in office and this is going to be a longer project, those are going to be the two supervisors recommended for that committee. And then lastly, I know we have Jeffrey Essex here. At the last board meeting, we were successful in bringing $30,000 of district discretionary funds to El Centro de Libertad so that they can purchase a second van as they do the expansion that we're going to hear more about later in the meeting for the Half Moon Bay Cares program. And then for the sidewalks, I was looking at a map and I can share the link to it. It looks like it's not a paper street, so I'm a little bit confused because I think I had heard it was a paper street and that's why there hadn't been improvements, but it looks like it's not. It looks like it's county maintained. I guess what I can do, I know there was less than stellar engagement from the county side, and I apologize for that. I'm happy to set up a meeting that would include our roads division and the supervisor and anyone who's interested. So y'all can talk to the roads division and the supervisor can listen in and hear your concerns and also hear what the roads division has to say. And also, I mean, if you'd rather have that in the space of an MCC meeting, we could do it that way. But I'm here to serve and try and help. So I'm sorry that this has been such an issue. And I think there was one more thing that came up, but now I'm blanking. Did I write it down? I think I'm excited about all this Quarry Park stuff. We're here to support more work, more fire resiliency in Quarry Park. So if anyone has any questions about fire, I would just say loop David Cosgrave into those meetings as well, as he'll be taking on some of the responsibilities of the fire coordinator. And I apologize, I didn't make that as brief as I wanted to, but happy to answer any more questions.
Anybody have questions for Lena? Lena, I personally appreciate your offer to put people together and to try to resolve this. Thank you. And I'm not sure how to follow up on it, but you and I can be in touch and I can let the people that are here know about it. Maybe that would be a place to start. Okay.
Absolutely. I put my email and my cell phone in the chat so people can reach out to me too if they have specific questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Claire, can I ask Lena a question that's about the MidPen booth, or should I wait?
Go ahead.
Okay.
No, she's here. You can ask any questions.
Yeah. Lena, will you be at the MidPen celebration event?
When is it?
September 13th, I believe, or 10th. Okay. September 10th. Sure.
If I'm getting invited, then yeah. I'd love to. And I just realized I forgot something. Michelle, I'm so sorry. I don't have an update on the airport this week, but I'll have one soon. Okay, thank you for that. But yes, I would love to go to that event. I'll email you, Jill.
Great.
Harvey, I'm glad you're here. You want to go ahead with the report or would Bob do that?
I'll start and I'll have Bob finish. Okay.
Okay.
I have just a couple of items before I introduce Bob. Half Moon Bay originated the CARES program. We got it partially funded. We worked out a lot of the initial details. So you're going to hear from Jeff Essex today about its extension to the Midcoast, and I think you'll find that this is a wonderful opportunity for the Midcoast to participate in a public safety issue that really is a long time coming. So I'm really happy to report that, and you'll hear from Jeff today. The only meeting that we've had in the last month was a special meeting to consider the master plan for Smith Field. It's just beginning. That we have a long way to go. We need a lot of funding, but if it does come to fruition the way it's anticipated, it will be a really community park that will be useful for the Midcoast as well as Half Moon Bay. There'll be community spaces, picnic areas, fire pits, improved ballparks. It will be a true community park, and it's very exciting to have that. The last thing that I intend to talk about is we've reluctantly accepted the resignation of Bob Nisbet, our city manager, for the last almost 4 years. He has really improved the entire coast in many ways. And I would like him to say a few words to the council. So take it away, Bob.
Thank you, Councilmember Rarbeck. I'm actually just here tonight to say so long to Lena, and I knew she'd be here. I hope, is her camera? There she is. I hope you realize how amazing she is. What a great service she provides you guys. She's a rising superstar at the county for sure. And she will not be with you guys forever. So don't take her for granted. No, yeah, it's true. Thank you, Councilmember Rarbeck. Some of you may have heard, I have submitted my resignation from the city. I took a job with the city of Goleta next to Santa Barbara. This is a place I lived for almost 25 years, so kind of a home for me. And the opportunity came up, and so my wife and I talked about it and decided it was the right move, and I applied and got lucky, and we're moving down there. So a lot of things happening. My last day with the city is August 19th. We're in escrow on a house down there, and we're starting to, plan to move. So yeah, I did want to come say goodbye. I've been in front of you several times, numerous, not a lot, but we've worked on some things together. We've certainly collaborated. And I would say that when I got here, it was Councilmember Rarbeck who said to me, one of the things we need to focus on is our relationship with the unincorporated areas. And that's why, and maybe there was someone before Harvey, but I don't think so, but that's why he comes to every meeting. And Claire does the same and comes to the council meetings and gives a report. And Greg, you substituted, I think at the last meeting, did a great job. But I do think that's important, and it connects us, and it gives us an opportunity to work on things together, because it's not always perfect, and there's some tension, I think, between the city and the unincorporated areas. And I think we need to keep working on that after I leave. I certainly was aware of it, again, from Councilmember Rarbeck when I got here. So I decided to rent a house in El Granada, so I could, kind of be on the other side and do my part to, have everyone get along a little bit better. So I think there has been progress. And again, I give that a lot of credit to Harvey on that, and just keeping those communication channels open so we can work collaboratively when the opportunity arises. And I will say that the next presentation is an example of that for sure. I also will give credit to Councilmember Rarbeck on that. Over a year ago, he pushed the issue of public safety. And out of that came, numerous things and numerous conversations, but one was mental health for sure. And so out of that, him and the rest of the council put an effort on trying to figure out a way to do an alternative response to people experiencing a mental health crisis. And that's where this program and this partnership with El Centro de Libertad was born. So I won't steal a lot of Jeff's thunder. He's going to give you a short presentation. But back to the collaboration, obviously, when it started, we didn't know what we were doing. We didn't have hardly any money. We did get $75,000 from Supervisor Horsley to kick it off. So it's good to hear there's another $30,000 coming for an additional car. But we really just, kind of went with it and did the best we could and started with the city because that's what we do. But as soon as it got up and running, it was clear that it made more sense to just forget about the city boundaries and just, do it on the entire coast side. So that's what you're going to hear about today. We're expanding the boundaries, and I think that's awesome. So yeah, I really think it's a cool thing that the city did, and now it's moving forward, and it's only going to gain momentum. So thanks again, for the times that we did have a chance to work together. It was fun. I did like coming before you guys and watching your meetings occasionally. Not all of them. Some of them that went to midnight were not that fun to watch, but you guys do a great job and a great service to the community, and appreciate everything you do. So keep it up. Last comment, on the sidewalks. As a city manager and someone who's been in local government my whole career, sidewalks, yes, come up all the time. I've heard all complaints. I know sidewalks. I know how it works. Cracks, uplifting, liability. Sidewalks are very, very important. So whatever the city can do to, again, assist with the county as they dive into this, I think that's a great start for Lena to set that meeting up. That's where it starts. I also have some firsthand knowledge. Angel, who spoke to you, is a neighbor of mine in El Granada. Angel's great. And it just so happens that section of sidewalk that was mentioned on Francisco is right next door to where I live. And I can assure you, it had nothing to do with the fact that next door lived the city manager for the city of Half Moon Bay. Had nothing to do with that. But the guy across the street, he's been remodeling his house for about 1.5 years, doing a great job, but very slow. But he was required to put sidewalk in front of his house when he got the permits to do his house. And then one day I was chatting with him, and the side across from him was really dangerous. It was horrible. And again, it's not in front of my house, it's the neighbor. And I just said, well, you should call they're making you put sidewalk in front of your house. Why don't you call the county? And yeah, my understanding is that that one got fixed because the county did realize it was a problem, and incrementally they need to start, doing something. So that section does look really good. I will attest to that. So that's all I got. Again, it's been great 4 years, and I'll be watching from afar and keep up the good work in unincorporated area.
Thank you, Bob.
We're going to miss you. We're missing a constituent. But we're missing. I'm going to miss the fact that you've always been there. It's just the fact that you're there makes approaching Half Moon Bay so much easier to work with, and hopefully that you'll leave that legacy behind. But I wish you the best of luck. I think Len has a question for either you or Harvey.
This is for Harvey. Harvey, at the last meeting, you spoke about some funding for Jackie Spear, mentioned in the context of Frenchman's Creek and roundabouts. I talked with your city engineer for transportation, Mas Bazaringa, and he said there is that funding, but it's largely about a trail on the east side of Highway 1 to do connections. And while it does, in a sense, may look at roundabouts there as a side issue, that's the focus of the grant.
Is there a question there?
Oh, no, it's just sort of an update so everybody would know.
Oh, okay.
We talked about it as a study of Half Moon roundabouts at Frenchman's Creek.
You got it right. Yeah. Thanks.
Sure. Is there anybody from any other government agencies here to give a report tonight? If not, move on to the consent agenda. I do want to make an announcement.
This is Dave Cosgrave of DEM. If I could make a quick announcement. Again, thank you for having me. Thanks for having me at your last meeting to talk about the SMC alert. We're obviously still working on that. Many of you probably received a test alert at 5 o'clock for the 3rd week in a row. So it was a planned test where they did one in the morning, one in the midday, and one in the evening, which was right at 5 o'clock. I will say we get many calls after we put out those alerts, and most of them are people complaining about them or thinking that there's some kind of spam because it tells you to go to a bit.ly type of link that doesn't look like a government link, but that's what it is. Jeff Norris is working with the data that he's getting back, and I'll get back to him. I heard at the beginning of this that if you don't respond in a certain time frame, it timed out and didn't let you respond. So we'll look into that. I live in El Granada, and when I moved into my house, I was in an area that had an area improvement, and they had elected to put sidewalks in this area, and I moved in and found a lien on my house, so I ended up paying like $4,700 for my sidewalks. So I really don't know how sidewalks work in El Granada, but I know as a first responder in San Mateo County that we usually know when we're going into the unincorporated areas because there's usually not sidewalks in the unincorporated areas. So I'd be interested to find out that information when you get it as well. Last Friday at our KEEP meeting, we had a special guest named Greg Diegas, and he talked about your organization and represented you well. Thank you for coming, Greg, and talking to our group. The month before we had PMAC, so the Coastside Emergency Action Program is just faith-based government and other nonprofit organizations and volunteers on the coast that kind of come together and meet before there's a disaster. So we have those relationships. So it was good to have you guys at the KEEP meeting. So that's all I have for you from that. I was at the Fire Safe meeting this morning with many of you too, and I'm looking forward to getting more involved with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. I do want to thank Gus for coming tonight and mostly for volunteering to run for the MCC, which leads me to the announcement that this Friday is the last regular day to sign up to run. It may be extended an additional week, but I wouldn't count on it. So please, if you've got any interest in joining, you can see the stuff we do. Please let one of us know. We'll help you sign up. Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. We have 4 items on the agenda. One of them, the minutes are being pulled. We'll do that next meeting. What else is on there is a resolution to continue remote meetings at this time, and a recognition of National Lighthouse Day, and the statement of support for the principles of seamless transit that we considered last meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda with the exception of the minutes for July 27th, which aren't available.
Second.
Okay, and Dan, would you please call the roll?
Yeah, so on the exception, Dave, that you pulled was the
minutes are not ready.
Yeah, and they're not posted, so it's really irrelevant. Or should I make a note? I'm trying to keep track of this.
That it needs to be recorded in the minutes that they were pulled. Yeah.
Okay, so that was let me just write down the date again. That was
July 27th.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion, second by Greg. Claire?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
Glenn?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Jill?
Yes.
And myself, yes, so it's 7-0. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Now we'll move into the regular agenda, and Jeff Essex he is the executive director of
El Centro de Libertad.
Thank you. I was blocking on that for a second. Everybody's eagerly awaiting hearing from you, as you can tell. So I think I'll just turn it over to you to tell us about the CARES program and what it's going to mean for the Midcoast.
Okay. Real quick, though, I want to say farewell to Bob. Bob has been an amazing partner to work with as we develop the CARES program in Half Moon Bay. And I got to tell you, the courage of the city leadership in Half Moon Bay, both Bob and Harvey has just been amazing to go into this type of a program and really create something brand new that's happening in the state of California. And it's exciting, it's nerve-wracking, it's scary, especially when you start looking at liability issues and things like that. But they had the courage to go down this road, and they've just been amazing to work with. So Bob, El Centro is going to miss you. Fortunately for you, Galita has Zoom as well. So I expect I'll see you in this meeting on a pretty regular basis and in other meetings. And Harvey, as always, thank you for your commitment to the CARES program and your partnership as well. And where's Lena? Is she still here? Lena? She went to the restaurant.
I'm here.
Oh, okay. Lena, we're going out Friday to spend that $30,000 that we got from the Board of Supervisors. So we're really
Don't whip
excited
it around
about
too
that.
fast. No donuts. Okay.
You know, it couldn't come quick enough. The CARES van that we've been using is from, no lie, 2002. And while it looks beautiful on the outside, it is on life support. So this vehicle can't come fast enough. And we're excited to be doing that on Friday. Let me tell you a little bit about El Centro de Libertad. We were founded in 1994 by a guy named George Borg, who was about 7 or 8 years into his recovery journey and working with other community-based organizations in the Redwood City area, and realized that there wasn't a drug and alcohol option, outpatient option for folks that spoke Spanish. And certainly not one that was affordable. So he started El Centro de Libertad as a nonprofit organization, and we've been up and running ever since. In 1999, we realized that on the coast side, there was no resources available for folks that were needing drug and alcohol treatment. So we opened up shop in Half Moon Bay, and we've been there ever since. And probably about the middle of last year or early last year is when we started to participate in a mental health panel. It was a focus group that the city of Half Moon Bay had put together as part of the Llanera Serrano Presente. And we were starting to talk about crisis intervention and how we could minimize the amount of law enforcement and other first responder resources that are involved in these 911 calls that don't necessarily need to have an armed response. And all of that came about from about 8 years ago when Llanera Serrano was shot and killed by San Mateo County deputies responding to a mental health crisis. And then 2 years ago, excuse me, it occurred again with a young lady in Half Moon Bay. Now, in looking at those particular calls on that particular night, I'm confident that when I say that an armed response by law enforcement was the go-to option because of the nature of those 911 calls. But we also know that before those two incidents, there were plenty of calls involving those same people to that same home that would have been appropriate for a CARES response. So let's talk a little bit about CARES. I'm going to share my screen. All right, everybody see that okay? Thumbs up. Yes, good. Okay, so introducing the CARES program. Let's see if I can get it to move with me. There we go. CARES is a partnership between the city of Half Moon Bay, El Centro de Libertad, the Department of Healthcare Services out of Sacramento, and the County of San Mateo. And Bob spoke about it earlier. We started with a budget of about $75,000. And the task for El Centro was to design a mental health response team that would work in the field for that amount of money. And we figured we would take a look at the Cahoots program in Eugene, Oregon, who's been doing it for about 30 years now with tremendous success. And we would copy that program and we would put it in Half Moon Bay. But the duration of the pilot project was going to be very short. At that point, Don Horsley's office came in and the County of San Mateo matched the funding with Half Moon Bay. And shortly thereafter, funding was secured from the Department of Healthcare Services that more than doubled the funding that was previously available. So it gave us enough room to make this a full year project with a full level of services. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. It's a collaboration. We work very closely with the San Mateo County Sheriff's Office, Public Safety Communication, Coastside Fire Protection District, Behavioral Health and Recovery Services. We also work with the Loss and Abundant Grace and Coastside Hope and Life Moves. And there's so many more CBOs, community-based organizations that we're working with. Because what our folks are doing in the field is not treatment. We're showing up, We're turning the fire down on the boiling pot of water, and then we're handing folks over to other capable resources that can provide that long-term stabilization that they need. So what is it? CARES is designed as an alternative to dispatching calls involving a mental health crisis on the coast. It's really, we're trying to redirect calls away from law enforcement and other first responders and to provide some type of de-escalation and stabilization, and then ultimately some type of a connection to long-term treatment. So we don't have to keep going back to the same home over and over and over again. The point is to minimize the amount of contact that an armed response has with a low-level mental health call. It's to interrupt the cycle of mental health crisis within a family. Remember, I was talking earlier about Yanira Serrano, and that particular night, the night that she was shot. Her brother had called law enforcement. It was the only option that they had was to dial 911. There was a weapon involved. The police responded the way that they responded, but there were plenty of other nights leading up to it that if CARES had been around, we might have been able to break that cycle of mental health crisis within that home and within that family. And then we're also looking to lower the cost of emergency mental health care to the public. It's expensive. When first responders show up to somebody who is suicidal, they send, of course, not one, but two deputies. There's a fire engine that shows up. There's an ambulance that shows up. They're all idling in the street, and all of those professionals are there on site. That's an expensive, just the gas alone is expensive. So we're trying to lower the amount that it's costing the public to help these folks that call 911 for help. How it works, basically a member of the community is going to call 911. I'll talk a little bit about 988 in a minute, but they call 911 or they call 988. Public Safety Communications, or Star Vista, who is answering the calls at the 988 Mental Health Crisis Call Center, will screen the call to determine the absence of three elements. One, there can't be any weapons involved. Two, there can't be a medical emergency. If somebody is unresponsive and they're in an overdose state, or they've already started to harm themselves and medical attention is needed, that's a medical emergency. And three, that there's no crime happening, domestic violence, child endangerment, things like that. We really want to get the police out there to address the crime that's occurring. Once they screen the call and they determine that those three elements are missing, it becomes a CARES call. The PSC on the primary law enforcement channel dispatches the CARES team to the location. If it's a 988 call, the call center for Star Vista is going to call the CARES team directly on their cell phones. And that goes out over the police radio. So the sheriff's deputies know when the CARES unit is being sent to a location. They hear the call go out, they know when we arrive, and they're listening for us to go code 4, no further assistance needed, or, hey, it really is something you guys need to be here for. There is a weapon involved, or this is a medical emergency, please send fire and medical. So far, we haven't had any of that. We haven't had to elevate the call for a higher level of care. Once we arrive there and we determine that it is a true CARES call, we're immediately going to start de-escalation and assessment, and we're looking for stabilization at the home. And when I say stabilization at the home, I don't necessarily mean the home. We go to all different kinds of places, but we're looking to make sure that the person that we're there to see is going to be okay until we can get them connected to the resources that they need to be connected to. We use a lot of motivational interviewing. For those of you who aren't familiar with motivational interviewing, we call it MI. It's a way of conducting a conversation with the client. It's a lot of open-ended questions. It's a lot of intentional listening. It's a lot of listening for change talk. Those things that they say that express a desire that are conflicting with the behavior at the time. And it's a way of taking somebody and walking them down a path to an end result that we know we need to get them to. My wife uses it on me every weekend when she's got a honey-do list and I don't want to do these things. She's very good at motivational interviewing, and we'll probably have to get counseling for that at some point. And we're also looking at what we need to do to connect these folks to the long-term solution. Again, it's not treatment. We're not there to provide counseling. We're there to bring down the heat. We're there to stabilize the scene, and then we're going to start connecting them to resources, whether that be county BHRS, whether that be Abundant Grace for some homeless services, or Life Moves for connection into the transitional housing services that they offer. We partner with so many different CBOs on the coast right now, the Vets Association, Coast Pride, just a variety of them that we're connecting folks to them. In some cases, transportation we may have to do transportation. If folks need a ride to an office, if they're having difficulty making that phone call to that CBO, we're going to connect with them the next day, and we're going to say, you know, how about we give you a ride over to BHRS and we get you connected that way? Or do you need a ride to go get your medication? We've done transportations out of county as well. We had a case where the sheriff's office had a call in Pescadero, which we're not responding to yet because of the distance. And they had a homeless gentleman who was in duress, but cooperative. And he needed to get to his brother's home in Los Altos, I think. And they, of course, weren't able to provide that transportation for him. So the deputies reached out to us. We said, bring him up to Half Moon Bay. And we provided that transportation to his brother's house after making sure his brother was cool with having his sibling there. And it was a way of solving the problem at the time. In some cases, we may have to do a voluntary 5150 hold. Now, 5150 is a health and safety code that provides the ability for law enforcement to do a 72-hour psychiatric detention. There's also a way to do a voluntary 5150. In some cases, we'll have a person that we're talking with, and it's in the evening hours, and all of the connected services are closed, but they can't be left alone. They truly are suicidal. They know it. We recognize it. We checked off the list, and yes, they meet all the criteria for this 5150 hold, but they are cooperative, and they're cognitively and emotionally in a place where we could safely transport them in our van over to psychiatric emergency. The entire process is overseen by El Centro's clinical director, who's a licensed LCSW. She meets us over at psychiatric emergency and places them on the 5150 hold. And we explain to the person, you know, this will take away your freedom for 72 hours, but it will open up immediate services all night long to keep you safe. Is this the road you want to go down? If they say yes, we say great. Everything we do is voluntary with our clients. If we show up at a location and the person says, you know what, I don't want to talk to you guys, kick rocks. We'll kick rocks, we'll leave. Because a voluntary and cooperative client is essential to the success of CARES. If that person is 5150, they can't be left alone, and they don't want to talk to us, then we would, of course, elevate that for a higher level of care, because then it becomes an involuntary situation. And when we do this transportation, when we do these voluntary 5150 holds, we do it in our van. And we do it without a cage car. We do it without handcuffs. We do it without the 4-point restraints. We do it without the fire engine and the ambulances and the deputies all up and down the street. We do it without the neighbors peeking out the window, and we try and treat it with some dignity and respect so that it's not so embarrassing for the person that called 911 asking for help instead of a show for all the neighbors to see. We're going to go anywhere on the Midcoast to San Mateo County. And we started doing this I think it was, we've been at it for a couple of weeks now. We extended the services outside of the Half Moon Bay city limits. We're going all the way up to the Tom Lantos tunnels and all the way down to the southern border of Half Moon Bay, including the Moon Ridge community. We're going to homes, businesses, schools, shelters, homeless encampments, you name it, we're going to go there. We've also adjusted our hours starting September 1. I'll get into that a little bit later, but starting September 1, we're going to be much more available to the school districts. Star Vista, in collaboration with BHRS, has what they call the SOS team, and it's a crisis response team specific to juveniles. But it's one team that services the entire county. So their response time may be delayed in getting to the crisis school. Our response times can be much quicker because we're here, we're on the street. What happens after the call? So it's not just we show up, we cool things down, and then we're done. We're going to follow up the very next day with a phone call to the person saying, how are things going? We gave you some referrals the night before. Did you make contact with them? Did you run into any weird red tape that we can get out of the way for you? Were you able to make the call? Sometimes just dialing the number is a barrier. Can we come over and give you a lift and take you over to their intake center and get you going? And we're going to do those follow-up visits until we're sure that the connection that we made the referral for has been made. Once we have a successful connection made, then at that point, we're hands off and we let the agency that we connected them to take it from there. It's a holistic follow-up. Not only is it the person that was in crisis that needs our help and may need long-term assistance, but the caretakers for that person, the family that's living in this home that is in constant chaos may need some counseling themselves or some type of assistance with food insecurity or education or employment or medical assistance, something. So we're not just connecting the person that we're there to see, we're connecting their support network as well. Okay, so starting on the 1st of September, we're adding a second cares team. We're going to be operating 7 days a week from 8 in the morning to 6:30 at night. When we first rolled out, we were starting at 1:30 in the afternoon and we were going till I think 10 o'clock at night. But y'all on the coast tend to go to bed pretty early. And we found that after 6 o'clock, about the only thing that the police ever call for are bar fights and maybe drunk driving things, stuff that the CARES team wouldn't be involved in. So we adjusted our hours down starting at 11:30 and we're closing it out at about 8 o'clock. But again, we're not getting any calls at all. And we're finding that we're missing calls that start earlier in the day, especially when school is in session. So starting on 9/1, we're going to be operating 7 days a week from 8 in the morning to 6:30 at night. We're going to be having two teams that are on what they call a 4-10 schedule. So they're working 10-hour shifts, 4 days a week, overlapping on one of those days. So we're getting extended hours to be much more available to the schools and much more available for those calls that come in late in the morning or midday, when that's when a lot of the calls come in. We based our original operating hours on crunching the data from 2021 that we got from Public Safety Communications. And surprisingly, that data showed that there's no need for an overnight shift. We don't need to run 24/7. And that data, coupled with our experience so far, says that we really need to start at 8 and 6:30 is a good time to wrap things up. So that's what we're going to be doing. On board are 2 crisis intervention specialists. One or both of them are going to be bilingual, and one or both of them will be certified through the state of California as an EMT. And the team, of course, is supervised by a clinical director. We call them both crisis intervention specialists. When we first designed the program, we were envisioning that the EMT would be doing EMT type stuff. But there's already a department within the county that manages the EMT process. And we're finding that the EMT is actually much more of a collaborative partner in the clinical process with the mental health professional. So the folks in the team both the crisis intervention specialists receive all of the same training that they both get the same training: crisis intervention training, de-escalation, motivational interviewing, suicide prevention, cultural competency, the whole 9 yards. So they're both equally trained in delivering the clinical component. And we do have an EMT on site there if to help determine if there's a pending medical emergency that we need to elevate the call for, or if sometimes just taking somebody's blood pressure is a calming effect on them and can help de-escalate the situation. It is a pilot program, so we don't really have key outcomes that we've outlined. We just really wanted to see if it would work, and we knew that collecting data was essential. We collect things like average response time, number of visits deferred away from law enforcement, the number of successful stabilizations, the type of calls that we're getting from public safety and from the sheriff's office, and the number of successful referrals and connections, and many other data points and demographic information. So by the numbers, for some reason, I put March 2022 stats up at the top. Pretend that says June, because I got sloppy on my proofreading. These are the numbers between March and June of 2022. We had 39 calls for service. We had 4 different transports, 25 stabilizations. So if you look, that's a pretty good percentage. When you're getting 39 calls and 25 of them, we were able to stabilize it. You can imagine that 25 times out of those 39, nobody went to jail. Nobody got 5150 or went to psychiatric emergency, and those folks were connected with the services that they needed to get to. We've had 33 follow-up actions where we call or visit the next day or a couple of times. 7 of our visits out of the 39 were from visitors to the coast side, primarily homeless folks. The rest of them were all coastside residents. We've done 14 different referral agencies we've connected people to. 8 of those were successful connections, which is actually a good percentage. When you look at 14, 50% of them, it was successful. They were engaged in the services with the new CBO. 29 of the 39 calls they came out to us as mental health welfare checks. And our average response time has been 7 minutes. So between the time they call 911, then the call is dispatched to us, the clock starts, and we've been able to get to those folks within a 7-minute time on average. I think our longest response time was 11 minutes. We suspected that number is going to creep up because we've expanded our region of operation all the way up to the tunnel. So that may get a little bit longer, but I thought, man, that's pretty good, a 7-minute response time. I was pretty happy with that. I want to talk a little bit about what's worked and what hasn't, and then we'll get into questions. Real quick, this is the 2002 van that we've been using. It looks really pretty, and it's been working, kind of. It's on life support. So, Lena, I can't thank you enough for making that happen for us. And the folks that you see on the right, these two, Josh and Kara, are the primary team members right now. We have 2 brand new ones that started the beginning of August, and they're deep into the training. They're going out on ride-alongs with the existing team, and Josh and Kara will be split up starting September 1 as the lead on the 2 individual teams partnered with somebody who's new to the program. And everybody else kind of shows the depth that El Centro is bringing. Their backup staff. You know, you've got backup EMTs that we contract with that we can call in case Karen needs a night off. And we've got backup mental health professionals that can cover for Josh when the time comes. So we have some pretty good depth. What's working and what isn't working? When we first started this program, we weren't really sure about the reception that we would get from the sheriff's department. We could not have been more wrong. The deputies on the field have been incredible. They have embraced the CARES program, and they've gone out of their ways to include us as much as possible on calls where we could really be of some assistance. In fact, they've even asked us to do some things that are kind of outside of the box. There was a minor parking dispute between neighbors in Moonridge. They were tied up and they got us on the radio and they said, can you guys go to that and see if it's something you can do? We said, sure. We went out and we resolved the parking issue. There was a civil standby from somebody being exited from the Coast House. And this person was somebody that we were familiar with. And they just wanted a presence there to make sure that there wasn't any type of violence or lashing out as these people were getting their things out of the room. So we were able to do that instead of having the deputies there. It's been an exceptionally successful program, and the collaboration with the Sheriff's Department has been just phenomenal. We've been having meetings with Christina Corpus, our new sheriff coming on board in January. She's very excited about the CARES program. When I first read her platform during the campaign, she specifically called out a cahoots type program is needed. So I said, hey, come check this out. And she did. And we're already talking with her about expanding the CARES program over to the Bay side of San Mateo County. Some of the areas where we're having more difficulty than we had originally anticipated. Public safety has been a part of our partnership from the word go. We knew we had to get them on board since they would be the first person answering the phone when 911 was called. In fact, the law enforcement liaison that works with public safety communications, she was actually on the call the night that Yanira Serrano had her life taken. So for her, this was a very personal investment into the success of the CARES program. But taking what we want to do and having that actually take shape with the people answering the phones and doing the dispatching. If you can imagine, public safety communication for San Mateo County is a massive operation. They don't just dispatch the sheriffs, they do fire, they do medical, they do the harbor district, they do street services all across the county. So it's a big operation. And they're operating with guidelines and procedures that have been in place for decades that were designed, one, to get help to people, but two, also to minimize liability to the county. So their go-to is to send all the help they can when they get this type of call, and that can be overkill for somebody that is just in an emotional duress or a suicidal state. We have seen some change and some movement, and I know there are meetings taking place to kind of to get more of that solidified, but there are procedures and policies in place that aren't easily changed because they have to be vetted through county legal and folks like that to find out if it's doable. This is the first program of its type in the state of California. There are a lot of homeless outreach teams. There are a lot of crisis response teams that are part of a municipality. In San Mateo County, we have another pilot program that places a clinician in a police car, and it's called a co-responder model. There are times when that's needed, but we're advocating that it's a lot easier to turn the heat down on a situation when there isn't somebody there with a badge, gun, and handcuffs and the legal authority to take away your freedom. So, so far, things have gone great. We've had a lot of success, and we look forward to a lot more. And I am available for questions. Everybody is muted.
I'm muted. I'm sorry. Jeff, thank you so much. That was wonderful. I'm particularly struck, I'm going to say something really quickly, because I attended some of the early meetings that the group was having to try to put together something like this. And in my wildest dreams, I did not think that you would be able to come up with something this well planned out and this effective. So, congratulations. I'm going to ask the community to have questions and comments brought forth, and then we'll turn it over to the council. Lena?
Oh, sorry, I was just clapping. I was being confusing.
Oh, okay. Does anyone in the community have any questions or comments for Jeff? Okay, well, I don't see any, so we'll turn it to the council, and I think that Greg has something he wants to say.
Well, I first want to commend you, and I guess by extension, the city of Half Moon Bay. I did not realize that you were so pioneering in this. The implications for this are immense with all of the defund the police and restructure the police stuff going on. A new model that could be much more successful. So my basic question is, well, I'll make an observation. Your data is going to be very valuable, extremely valuable as time marches on. How long have you been doing this? I must not have heard it right, but and you already know now that you need to add a second unit. So how much time had to go by and what evidence accumulated to tell you you needed a second unit?
We realized, well, we launched the program on March 16th of 2022, so it hasn't been all that long. But we realized early on that we were missing too many calls early in the day. And we also realized that we needed to extend our hours because it's a pilot program, collecting data to prove efficacy of the program in order for it to spread and be used in other parts of the state was essential. We have applied ASR. Applied ASR is the name of the corporation. They're actually doing an independent analysis of the CARES program. They're helping us collect the data. They're crunching the numbers. They're comparing it with cost analysis from the County of San Mateo to prove, one, that it's an effective program, that it can be done safely and provide the services that we say it's going to provide. And two, that it is cost efficient compared to traditional first responders. But we realized early on that we needed to have early morning hours included in it, and we needed to have longer hours. And initially it was just Tuesday through Saturday. So Sunday, Monday were being completely missed. There was no CARES program, and those 911 calls were being responded to with a traditional first responder response. So we, with the additional funding that we got from the state of California, we were able to add that second team and create a coverage for 7 days a week. Now, there is funding from the state of California under AB 118 that I know Matthew Chittister at Half Moon Bay, he's all over that. And it is funding specifically designed for programs exactly like ours. And that's a significant amount of multi-year, per year funding that will help sustain the program. So hopefully in 2023, we can look at a projection that'll go out another 2, 3, 4, 5 years into the future. But I hope that answered your question.
Well, just one more thing. If you need any further help or endorsements from the MCC going forward in order to get money or whatever, please let us know.
Will do. Definitely will do.
Okay. Lynn.
Yes. Over the last many months, I've heard your program talked about as Harvey first introduced it, and Lena commented on it. And I tend to be involved in projects about exciting things like roadways being improved, et cetera. But yours has a real human element, and I've been just very impressed by what you both presented here today and the progress it shows over the last several months. So my congratulations.
My team is doing, to give you an idea of the type of people that we hired at El Centro, we're looking for people that have some lived experience. So a lot of my staff have been touched by the justice system, or have had addiction issues or mental health issues, or have been homeless themselves, and they're now on the back side of it. And there's been some time. And those folks that are in that van are not just there to collect a paycheck. For them, it's very personal, and they're passionate about the work that we're doing because it's a way that they're able to give back and show appreciation for the new breath of life that they have. So they had one case where there was a gentleman, homeless, that the deputies had met up with several times. We had met up with several times, and he was harming himself and doing things that I won't go into detail, but everybody was kind of exasperated with his unwillingness to connect. Ultimately, we were able to connect him to a counselor through the Coastside Clinic, and they connected us with a new counselor on this side of the hill. And we were able to transport him over there, get him into housing, and get him reestablished on his medications. And that took some effort, that took some time. And this is the type of guy that most people in the community would see coming down the street, and they would cross the street to get away. So it's the quality of the people that are in the band. I would love to take the credit for all the success, but it's really Josh and Kara. And we're adding Natalia and Tanya to the group on September 1. So those people they're doing it for the right reasons.
Dan.
Yes, Jeff, thank you for your presentation. I got to say, overall, conceptually, I'm very much in favor of this program. Anything to resolve a situation at the door before a gun is pulled by the sheriff. Do have a question as far as you listed the director. I'm just curious, who would be the direct oversight above the director as far as policy that you guys will, I'm sure things may change. You kind of gave kind of a list of some of the policy tonight, but what body would be the direct oversight of the director?
So we have the folks in the band, and there's a team leader. And then after that, there's a couple layers of supervision. There's the clinical director, Chevelle Burden, who started out the CARES program by actually being that third person in the band for the first couple of 3 months and really writing our policy and procedure manual, which it's now in the proofreading stages and will soon be available for our staff to use as a reference guide when they're getting started out. In addition to that, there's Luis Valdivius. He's our director of programs, who has direct oversight over the scheduling and the staffing for the CARES program. And above them is me. And this is my baby. So trust me when I tell you I'm all over it. It is wholly run within our community-based organization, El Centro de Libertad. However, we're reporting to and are beholden to the city of Half Moon Bay. They're the ones that are paying our monthly bills. They're the ones that receive the monthly reports from us on what's working and what isn't working. On a weekly basis, we're having meetings that are interagency meetings where we talk about what needs to be the next stages and how things are going. And then, of course, we're closely working with the Sheriff's Department and making sure that we're in line with their what they need to see from us in order to keep the partnership going. I hope that answered the question.
Well, as far as the Midcoast, since we're not in the city of Half Moon Bay, I'm assuming would it be the Board of Supervisors in that case?
Board of Supervisors, I mean, the County of San Mateo provided the additional funding in the initial stages of putting this thing together. I'm not sure how much reporting the city of Half Moon Bay is doing to the county. Because that was a partnership between the county and the city of Half Moon Bay. Our direct oversight is provided by the city of Half Moon Bay.
That may be something that you may want to keep us in the loop on, since the city of Half Moon Bay wouldn't have any oversight over what happens here, and neither would we, but we would like to be involved in making sure that there is some oversight.
Sure.
Okay, thanks.
Sure. I am more than happy to come here on a regular basis and report to you what's working, what isn't, and our ongoing statistical collection. I mean, we're very transparent in that regard. And we are always open for suggestions or input on how we can make the program better or how we can make it more successful. And the Midcoast is now part of that process. So input from this body is important, and we value that.
Yeah, I would be personally interested in the update, but my guess is that there should be some connection between the county, but we'll figure that out moving forward.
Jill, Michelle, Dave, any further comments?
I would like to say that I am extremely excited about this program. I'm completely behind it. It sounds like a great harm reduction program, and I think it's fantastic. Anything you can do to keep us in the loop, I'd love to hear more about it as it progresses. Thank you.
Jeff, thank you so much for coming and talking to us. Let us know how we can help, and we'll stay in touch about the other issues as well.
I thought I saw Michelle's hand up. I'm not sure.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just raised my hand. I was going to say something right along the lines with what Jill said. You know, it's great that not only that you've set up this program and it seems hugely successful to date, but also that you're coming here and sharing it with us, and that you've been able to expand it outside of Half Moon Bay to the rest of the Midcoast. So yeah, I just wanted to thank you for this and for everything that you've done to set it up.
Okay, I will chime in and join everybody else. I'm very, very happy that this program is in existence and that Half Moon Bay got it going along with you, and that it's now expanded to other parts of the county. It's great to hear. Thank you.
All right. Anytime that you gentlemen and ladies need an update or just want an update or you have some input, Claire knows how to reach out to me, and she can invite me to this meeting. I'm going to throw into the chat my personal, my work email address. So if you have any questions that come up after tonight and you want to ask questions, I will answer them, and I'll do it promptly. And that's it from me.
Thank you very much, Jeff. The next item on the agenda is completely different, but nonetheless important. And it's regarding the Caltrans multi-asset roadway rehabilitation project and the draft environmental document. And we're looking at this tonight. I'm going to turn it over in a second, but we're looking at the plan tonight and trying to get some ideas from the community and from the council as to how we feel about it. And then next meeting, we'll be presented with a letter of comment to Caltrans on the project itself, which we'll vote on then. But we'd like to put together as many ideas as we can tonight. So I'm going to turn it over to Len Erickson, and go ahead.
Len, you're on mute.
Can everyone see the slide?
Yes.
Okay, great. With apologies here, I'm going to start a little bit in the middle of slides and then go back to the beginning. Part of the reason is on July 21st, Caltrans held a major public presentation on this project. For reasons I still do not fully understand, the publicity on the project did not reach the Midcoast. It did not reach the county representative works on the project, nor did it reach the city of Half Moon Bay. And we have that full project here, and that was with comments as well. That's when the Caltrans team was prepared to respond. When I called this to Caltrans' attention and they looked into it, they finally, as a result, altered the whole deadline framework for the project. Originally, comments were due on August 8th. Now we have two deadlines that are of concern to us. The city of Half Moon Bay and the county are due to present their comments on the project by next Wednesday, the 17th. And then that will put us in a position to bring our comments to the council on MCC, and they're due on August 25th. Also on this slide, I was trying to understand this project relative to not necessarily its overall scope, but where it fits in terms of the effort being put in. And I found that at the end of this past year, a Caltrans policy went into effect, which states all transportation projects funded by Caltrans will provide comfortable, convenient, and connected complete streets facilities for people walking, biking, and taking transit. And this refers to all projects. In particular, it refers to this project. So when we first got early briefings on this last September, this wasn't a fully in place project, and I believe it makes a lot of difference. Second, as we all know, the county has adopted the Connect the Coastside program, and that's been, but we now have working with projects that have go through that funnel. So moving back ahead here, and the other slide I just want to highlight here is this is the scope of the project. The rehabilitation of the roadway, the concrete guardrails, drainage systems, bus stops, facilities for the disabled. But then as you move into incorporate bicycle improvements and meeting the Caltrans Complete Streets guidance, as well as the traffic management system, these are the parts of the most interest here in terms of active participation from the public. So going back here, I'd like to just go through a quick overview. This is not the full presentation. But in particular, we want to highlight what are missing items from the discussion and what those are. This is a definition of a neg deck. And these are the kinds of things we have to pull together now to look at these elements. Have some areas of concern. The state route crossing at Medio Creek has trail construction going on both sides. They've previously wanted to put in a crosswalk there, so it's an area of focus. The Coconut intersection is slated for improvement, and then there's a number of issues associated with Surfers Beach on one side and the Burnham Park coming in on the other side of Highway 1 there at Surfers Beach. And we have had issues with eucalyptus from a fire danger at Fishman's Creek and Medio Creek. The question going forward is, here are some of the key elements. In terms of the bike and pedestrian improvements, what I want to call to attention here is both Half Moon Bay and the Midcoast the coast are on the project. If you'll notice in Half Moon Bay, which goes to about right in this area here, there's a lot of activity shown by the table over here and relatively few markings for the Midcoast, and it doesn't even completely finish the Midcoast, which reflects a bit where the effort is at there. And in particular, when we look at the full study, we have just a paragraph here to look at. So in looking at this with Greg and trying to prepare for this, I felt that really the amount of information to digest, to look at it in particular, is much larger than I realized. Well, without the ability to review it both with Caltrans and the associated agencies. I wanted to, in this meeting, both bring up a few points and take questions, but where I'm going is that if there are other people, Greg and I have begun to work on this. If there are other people either on the council or in the community who would like to be involved, there's information I can give you to look at and review, to comment and hold discussion sessions over the next week. And in a week from now, we'll see what comments come in from both the city of Half Moon Bay and the county, as well as have a draft of our thoughts. This is Greg's and mine on comments, but we view it only as a starting point. So at this point, just to get a feel for these, especially the bike and pedestrian improvements, also coming in here is what they refer to as a smart corridor plan or traffic system management. Another element of confusion here are the variable message signs are continuing to be brought forward by a separate project in Caltrans, but this project does not have variable message signs at all, but it does have elements of the transportation system management operations, including cameras, sensors, et cetera. I know a lot of people have both interest, both in support and questions about it. So these are the elements that are there that I would like to have people take a look at if they want to. So this meeting is either to take any high-level questions or specifics there that people would like to bring up, as well as ask for those who would like to participate in discussions over the next week or two to identify themselves, with the culminating effort being a letter that we'll bring to the council in 2 weeks. So at that point, I'll see if anybody either has questions or.
Could I just punctuate that?
Go ahead, Greg.
Our letter, we've already had the deadline extended a fair amount because of their notification problems. But the day after our next meeting, we have to have a letter in. So that's why we're asking for questions, comment, participation, because we're going to have to draft this letter between now and the next meeting. And we don't, we're not going to have time for a lot of batting around.
But for those who want to participate, we have information to give you to review, so you have a good understanding of the types of comments and things we can focus on. Jill, do you have a question?
Yes, I do. Well, actually, I have a comment. Do you want to do questions first?
Either one.
Okay. So in the letter, my comment would be in section 1.31, asked to include the purpose of the intersection cameras, closed circuit television cameras, and traffic monitoring systems. They didn't include that in the purpose. So what's the purpose of those?
Okay.
That's my only comment.
Okay. Dan?
Yes. So I sent to the MCC today a series of articles regarding the sand shortage, global sand shortage, and also a couple pictures of an example of the Midwest guardrail system up in Pacifica. Can you put that up, please?
Was this in a letter you sent today?
Yes.
Okay, I've got it here.
So I'll get started. I just want to let everybody know that I'm taking issue with 3 things regarding the project. Number 1, the wireless detection system. Number 2, the Midwest guardrail system, and the fact that there is no element of underpass consideration, even though I have 1,000 signatures for a petition for an underpass at Graywell Cove. Your pictures are not, somehow you need to enlarge it because they're not capturing the important part of the image. Okay, so we're going to start with the Midwest guardrail system. So here we have an example. Can you open it up a little bit more? So here we have an example. This is an example of Caltrans' new standard of a Midwest guardrail system. As you can see, they extended the road by about 5 feet with concrete underneath the underneath the guardrail. And they claim that the purpose of this is to, to prevent or to block weeds from growing. Well, I'm going to argue that this is not appropriate for the Midcoast for the purpose number one. As you can see, this bright white concrete, just stands out. It doesn't blend in with the environment. Can you go down to the next photo, which just scroll down? I think it's the next one after. Should be right below this photo. If you just keep scrolling down.
Let's see, as I scroll, it does not seem to come.
Okay, here we go. Stop there. As you can see, there really is no weed problem. This image really clearly, just stresses that there. Now, it is true that every situation is a different, but in this case, here's a perfect example that, there are no weeds growing. They don't need to put this concrete. In our Midcoast situation, we've got, it's a rural environment where it's normal that we would have wildflowers, growing across the side of the road.
So Dan, this is an important point to bring in, and I think you've emphasized it within the framework of talking right now. So what I'm saying is you want to be involved to work on this?
Yeah, I didn't finish my my thought on this, but essentially, this is an example of Caltrans doing a kind of a standard that one solution fits every problem. Well, this solution does not fit a problem in our Midcoast. That's my main point. I could go into more details, but what piggybacks onto this is the use of this concrete. Can you scroll? Can you bring up all of the articles regarding the global sand shortage? There is a global sand shortage. Sand is necessary for using concrete. To make concrete, there's CO2 emissions.
Dan, we'll collect this to bring to them in terms of what we're discussing. I mean, I think you've made your.
This is the purpose of the community right now. I'm trying to so that the community understands, so that they can have a fair chance to comment after I'm done. I'm not done yet.
Will somebody keep time, please?
Okay.
Dan,
the more you interrupt me, the longer it's going to take.
I'm interrupting Dan because the normal thing is to clarifying questions and then comments, and you're 5 minutes. And
Len already said comment or question doesn't matter. So I'm just following his lead. Okay. So just let me continue, please. And please try not to shut me off. So clearly this image is an example that it's not really needed. Concrete is certainly needed in particular projects. Concrete in this installation here for this purpose is not the most environmental solution to prevent weeds from growing underneath the guardrails. There are many other different methods to more ecological methods to solve that problem. Len, could you just please for a second?
Dan, the point here was to identify people who wanted to participate in a more detailed discussion.
And we're talking about this topic.
I know, and you've made that clear.
I'm not done.
In depth.
Not done. Can you please just
others on the council have a turn, and maybe we can then go back to Dan because it's
just for the record. Can you please bring up the
no, we'll come back to you at the end. I want to see anybody else.
Please bring up the articles regarding the global sand shortage, because that relates to the concrete use here. It's not necessary that they use.
We'll give you more comment time at the end. Okay, Michelle, you have your hand up.
Yeah, two questions. One is that I've seen a lot of comments about this meeting not being properly noticed. I actually got a physical piece of mail in advance of this meeting. I can send it to the council or try to post it here. But yeah, I was wondering, did anyone else get that piece of mail on the council?
No.
Or in the community? That's really interesting. I'll definitely share it with you because I did get that.
I know it was spotty out there, but especially the fact that neither Chanda Quavo, Miles Bertinga from Half Moon Bay received it was evidence of its lack of distribution. It's not just.
I got multiple notices that the meeting would be held and then multiple notices that it would be canceled, and never got a notice that it was actually happening.
Yeah, I got a real nice, like, big card in the mail. So that's strange.
In any event, they've accepted a problem exists and
yeah,
the makeup plan.
Okay, that was my first question. And my second question is, Len and Greg, since you are going to be working on this, can you give us any idea yet of what you're thinking in terms of comments? Or have you not had time to put those together?
Going back here.
Okay.
So these were particular elements at Surfers Beach. They had said they were taking extra time to deal with the mid-block crossing. It has a reference, but nothing specific at the level that other crossings are discussed. With respect to bicycle improvements, again, in Half Moon Bay, they've made a number of areas where they want certain class of bicycle lane. In our area, the minimum we are asking for is a defined width, hopefully 3 or 4 yards on either side, or feet, I should say, of shoulder there. And there's no specific definition about that at all. On the other side at Surfers Beach, the Caltrans right-of-way has been a parking area for cars who want to use the surf. But there's no space allowed for bicycles to transit at the same time. There's plenty of room for that. So those are examples of problems where we expect from a scoping standpoint to indicate that they're in scope. There's other areas where we're not sure. The crossing at Medio Creek, I think, is identified. It's not clear what they would want to do. And the Coastal Commission that we expect has guidelines about Surfers Beach. The armoring project was completed in 2016. And I believe there's further comments due from Caltrans about this area. And since this project presumably is a rehab that we should at least have a 10 or 15 year lifetime, we'd like to get Caltrans sees that fitting in. We have a problem from the community side of knowing there's a large project planned on the east side. And while we want to see how to fit it in, it does not necessarily belong to this project, but we want to understand how to work successfully with Caltrans in this area. These are just starting points.
Great, thank you.
Claire?
There have been some community complaints recently about the stairs at Surfers Beach being in disrepute and dangerous. And I don't know if that's something that would come under your comments or not.
My feeling is it probably would, because it is a pedestrian access right off the trail, which is by the highway.
Plus Caltrans is supposed to maintain that, although the Caltrans and the county never reached final conclusion on that.
Okay. So the only hand up I see now is Dan.
Yes, thank you. So could you please bring up the articles that I sent to everybody regarding the global sand shortage? Just to have it on record, there's several different MSN, NPR, Reuters, Baywatch, SF Baywatch, I believe it's Nature Bay. There we go. Just open that up so that people can see it, please. There we go. So that's from NPR, CNBC, Popular Mechanics. There's a number of articles. If anybody, keep going, please. Number of articles, information out there. Now, granted, Marketplace, keep going, please. It's just a couple more, I think. There's Reuters, Science Magazine, Baykeeper, and then the last one is Bay Nature. So they're all taking issue with the problems with the sand and how it impacts coastal erosion. And this is important because it requires sand to be used to make concrete. So why are we putting concrete underneath the guardrails when it is not necessary? There's other methods, more ecological methods to control weeds. You can look up and down our highway now. They have a series of areas where the soil is mounded up high so that it dries out and the weeds don't grow. You could use wood chips. There's a whole number of different methods. So I taking issue on the use of concrete underneath the guardrails because clearly there's a need for concrete in more important areas. As far as the wireless detection system, I am going to argue that Caltrans is not being completely forthcoming as far as the systems that they're going to use. They're stopping. They're saying, "Oh, we can't tell you yet until the contractors propose on what they're going to use." Well, I'm calling that bullshit because the Caltrans knows what they will accept. They know what they will not accept. So I would like to have more information on the whatever they're proposing for the wireless detection systems. Now, as far as all of this $33 million here that they're going to spend our tax dollars, and there's no long-term solutions for crossings. And everybody knows that my opinion is undercrossing is the best solution in the right places. And I have a petition that was signed by 1,000 people that favored an underpass at Graywell Cove versus a stoplight. So clearly, the community has interest in considering underpasses in certain areas. Again, it's impossible for a person to be hit by a car if there's a grade separation, and the pedestrian flow would not be dependent on the cars stopping. When cars stop, obviously the traffic just backs up. Go ahead, Len. I can hear you now.
Okay, good. So can we call your comments finished at this point? And
Are you shutting me down? Yeah, I'm getting used to that, Len. Thank you. I think I'm done. Go ahead.
Thank you. I don't see any other comments today or questions. So that's all we wanted to cover today. If anyone of the council wants to send further comments to us or participate in discussion, let me know, Claire. You're mute, Claire.
Listen, Len,
there's somebody from the audience actually who does want to talk from the community. Okay. I'll call on him next. But Claire, did you have something to say first?
Yes, I wanted to ask you how, I know you're going to be putting this letter together, but as you pointed out, we're going to need to vote on it fairly cleanly at the next meeting. So how are we going to know what's in the letter and make that it's all pretty much wrapped up before the meeting?
I would see we would hold either a Zoom meeting or just exchanges by next Thursday to have the letter complete. And anybody who wants to review at that point will be able to review it.
Or we could keep this conversation right now open and complete.
Thank you.
I'm just not sure logistically what you're proposing. If you put out a letter that we can all take a look at and comment on prior to agendizing the meeting, is that legal? I don't think so.
No, we can have up to 3 people participate in the ad hoc committee. That's one more person here. If we want to have a meeting to discuss it, we would have to announce and agendize that. But as long as there's only 3 MCC people plus others, we can move forward with the draft.
So am I understanding you, Lynn, to say you plan to post a draft of the letter next Thursday?
Yes.
Okay, so that's when the rest of the council looks at it. So we'll have the better part of a week to look at it before the next meeting.
Okay, but we can't say to Lynn, hey, I think you should change this or that until we get to the meeting?
No,
okay.
We can't.
Okay. So you want to do something you think will pass?
Steve Terry?
And then Lynn, call on me after, please.
Sure. Steve? Steve, you're mute? Okay.
Yeah, sorry, I was trying to find too many windows open. Sorry about that. Yeah, I just want to say, so thank you for doing this and getting it agendized and extending the comment period out. Len and Greg, I'd like to participate in discussions over this issue for the next couple of weeks, especially with respect to the transportation management system component. So if you're willing, I'd like to help out with that. Dan, I appreciate all your comments. You've clearly looked at this a lot and have a lot to say about it. I realize this is a scoping session in some sense, and so you wanted to say more than that. I think you're getting better at consolidating your comments in general. I saw some improvement there. I think you still have some ways to go. So keep it up, I would say. I want to say that I attended that July 21st presentation meeting and was able to ask some substantive questions. Unfortunately, the Q&A was purposely not recorded and the questions had to be submitted. So it was an awkward way of asking questions because you couldn't really follow up too easily. Regarding Jill made a comment earlier regarding, that was actually one of the questions I asked at the Q&A. The question was, it seemed to me that the purpose and need did not appear to include the transportation management system because they state a clear purpose and need in their document. But they said that because there's SHOP funds, SHOPP funds, which I have no idea what those are, and that do not appear to cover TMS. So, I was wondering why those funds do not appear to cover TMS. So why is that included in the project? And a person named Kelly answered that the purpose is the multi-assist rehabilitation project. And so the TMS elements are part of that. That is the multi-asset portion of the project. So somehow that justified purpose and need for the TMS stuff in there. I had a few other questions that I can relate in future discussions. One concern I have is how does this play with the previous project that's going through San Mateo County Planning Commission now? It's kind of floating face down. The staff has recommended denial of that. That has TMS components in it, probably a lot more. And so how does this all link up? I'd like to know, I'd like to get to the bottom of what is the master plan. That's not very good language. I think better language, what's the comprehensive plan for this whole traffic management system? I would like to see that. And then regarding sand use, the discussion was made earlier. I'd like to know, does Caltrans have a public policy on using that scarce resource? Maybe they have some policy saying, okay, here's how we're trying to reduce sand use. Maybe we should try to dig that out. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. And I'm glad to hear you were at that meeting. Your perspectives will be helpful. Dave Wilson.
Yeah, to make the point, since I didn't hear anybody else make it, that anybody attending this meeting or watching it later or reading about it is more than welcome to comment on the draft neg deck directly to Caltrans. You do not need to wait for us to comment on it. not clear that our voice has any more impact than your individual voices. In fact, the individual voices combined probably have more impact than ours. So please do comment directly to Caltrans, remembering that if you asked or made a point at the meeting on July 21st, that did not count as a comment. Thanks.
Thanks, Dave. Great.
I think Dave just made a good point, and it would apply to Steve Terry and Dan and all of us. We should write separately as well as a group. My question is, does the MCC think we need to hold a special meeting to review this letter before we have the meeting on October 24th?
You meant August, right? August 24th.
August 24th, sorry.
Nope.
My assumption.
I don't think that we likely need one, but after you post the draft, if people think that it's really significantly different, then they can all write to Claire and request the special meeting, and then we'll figure it out. I don't expect that to happen.
I would say that, typically things like this get rushed through and they don't have enough community input. So I'm gonna say yes to Greg's suggestion of having just to have a better open conversation over this. This is a $33 million project. It's going to have, some pretty big effects to our community. So I think it's worthwhile. I'm in favor of a special meeting.
Okay. Thank you. Michelle?
Yeah, in response to Steve's comment of how everything relates together, I just wanted to make people aware that Lisa Ketchum has kindly put together an updated Highway 1 overview page on the MCC website. I'll post a link in the chat. It doesn't necessarily explain how everything works together, but it does list out all of the different Highway 1 projects that are currently in process. And I think it's a really worthwhile overview. And also in the MCC newsletter that went out this week, Greg put together a detailed overview of those projects as well.
Okay, thank you. Jill? Jill, you're mute.
Sorry.
And your audio.
Dave said that we could eventually.
You're breaking up, Jill.
Now?
Just start talking. It's still.
Hello?
Go ahead and try again, Jill.
Can hear you.
Okay. When you comment on a CEQA document, always ask a question.
Your voice is really choppy.
Could you type your comment into the chat, Jill, so that we gather it? Yeah, sure. Her bandwidth must be low.
She's on mute now.
Yeah, but if she types it into the chat, I think she said we should always ask questions. I don't understand why, but I think that's her suggestion.
Yeah, I think she gave you a thumbs up. She'll do that. Okay. So we've recognized that Dan and Terry want to be involved going forward. So we'll get information out to them. Any information that I send to the group, I just would copy the council on. Okay. I don't see any further comments today.
Jill typed her comment if you want to read it into the record.
Great.
Jill, sometimes they say if you take your image off the screen, your voice sounds a little better. You could try it.
Jill's comment is, when you comment on a CEQA document, always ask a question so you get an answer in the final draft. That's a good point. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
That's it?
Yep.
Okay, we got work to do. Thank you very much, Len. Last item is an internal maintenance issue. We have 2 mailing lists currently, and I know Michelle and Dave have been working on how to manage that and make it a little more usable. So if the 2 of you can let us know what you're doing, that would be helpful.
I'll go ahead and start off, and if Michelle has corrections or additions, she can go ahead.
Yeah, I actually wanted to share, Dave, but Len needs to stop sharing first.
Okay.
But feel free to go ahead.
If you want to share, I have to give you privileges. Hold on a second. Okay, you've got it.
Thanks. You can go ahead and explain, and I was just going to show on screen.
Right. Okay, so basically we have had for many, many years an agenda mailing list, which currently has about 90 people on it. It's done through Google Groups. Google Groups is an awkward interface. It's going to go away at some point. They haven't threatened directly to do it yet, but they tend to do that periodically. And most importantly, as an issue we've come up against over and over again, it is a list to which a promise was made early on and has been passed on that the only thing that would be sent to that list is agendas, and that the list on it completely, not even the administrators get to see everybody on it, only the owner, which was the person who created it for many years, even after he was off the MCC, and I became the owner 2 years ago. So we created a new mailing list using MailChimp, or I should say Michelle created it, for the newsletter mailing. And the proposal, yeah, it's the same one I was going to share. Somebody asked Michelle. Great, thank you for doing it. So the proposal now is to switch the agenda list over to MailChimp, send out a mail to everybody on the agenda list saying we are going to stop using the Google Groups agenda list. If you want to stay on the agenda list, sign up on this new list, and we're going to keep people's names but we're not making this super strict promise anymore. And we'll use the same mechanism to mail the agendas out that we use to mail out the newsletters, but they will be separate lists. And as Michelle is showing, you can use the same form to sign up for one or both of the mailing lists. So that's the proposal. It seems pretty straightforward. If Michelle is no longer on the council, she's willing to train somebody, either somebody now on the council or new on the council, to take over the MailChimp administration, which is pretty straightforward. So Michelle, you want to say anything in addition to that?
No, I think you covered it. But yeah, it's just a pretty behind the scenes change. Previously, I mean, it does make it a little bit easier for people to sign up because previously on our website, if you wanted to join the agenda mailing list, you had to click the link and then send an email to Google Groups. I even tried it once with my personal email and it didn't work properly. I didn't get signed up that first time. So I think this will make it much easier for people to sign up. And then just a little bit of work on our side to get the new chair, whoever's the chair or who's responsible for sending out the agendas, to use the new system. And then, yeah, it's pretty much one list that's kept for both things, or one system that's used for both things, but separate lists, and people can opt in or out of either thing. Looks like Steve has a question.
Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, real quick. I remember back in the day, I believe Scott Boyd hosted the email list on his sanmateo.org server. Does anyone know why that it was moved away from that? Or might one want to go back and ask Scott if he might want to host that again, or have some ideas on this?
I actually, it's going to report on this later, but I have access to all the MCC videos to going back to 1999, so I could probably go look at them and find out. But frankly, I don't care. It's clear that Google Groups is a clunky system, not being well maintained anymore, so it doesn't really much matter to me personally. And as the owner of the list, since I'm going to be off the MCC, you would have to transfer the ownership to somebody else who would have to agree to the current stringent requirements, which is another problem.
Okay, thank you.
Claire?
Is there any value in your eyes to having another opt-in for, just if we want to let people know about something, if there's something that's come up that we just would like to have publicized for some reason, can we use either of these mailing lists for that kind of thing, or what do you think about that?
I think we could define the agenda list as agendas and other occasional, not frequent notifications from the council.
Okay.
Point of information, I think that would require a voting on the MCC body.
In the past, we've used the newsletter list for that. I think we've only sent maybe 2 or 3 times emails out to the newsletter list. Right now, yeah, I think that whatever we say in terms of what the email, what the cadence normally is of those 2 opt-in choices, the agendas, which we say sent prior to each meeting, or which I propose to say sent prior to each meeting, and newsletters currently sent quarterly. I think we could either use one of those 2, or we could add expand the definition of either of those 2, or add a third option. But I think to keep it simple, I'd recommend expanding the definition of either the agendas or the newsletters. So I actually think it'd be more appropriate for newsletters to say, current quarterly newsletters and occasional event notifications or something like that.
Again, this would need to be approved by the council.
I don't think a vote is necessary on that.
Well, I'm telling you it is.
Well, an example in my mind would be like the scoping report release.
Exactly, and that's what we already used the newsletter list for, to send a notification of the scoping meeting. So it's not unprecedented.
If Dan requires that this feels a vote, I'm happy to call for a vote on it after we finish the discussion.
What are we voting on in particular?
I'll figure that out. But before we get that far, did you have something else you wanted to say, Len?
Well, it was sort of related to that. I have seen more than a few times where people would like to do a blog post that would be informative to the community more. And the blog post has one function, which is really it's a reference point for our meetings. It sort of evolves during the meeting and follow-up. And there have been in the past more informative messages that come there. And I think having a mechanism to put that out to people who wanted to would be worthwhile as an option. But so, because I think I don't have a problem with the technical transfer. It's just keeping the functions there that are there already. If we talk about another option, then the question is, do we want to leave it to occasional judgment like Michelle is saying, or just have a formal distribution list for news that's considered an important announcement that comes in between meetings or isn't tied to meetings?
All right, is there anybody else, particularly in the community, who wants to comment on this or on the council?
Just to finish my comment, I think what I bring, it's a good idea to look at. I don't see a need to do it today. That if we find enough need, then it can be brought up. And this tool would seem more flexible to let us do that.
Okay, so what I am going to propose for a vote, and I'm happy amendments, is that we move the agenda list from Google Groups to MailChimp. And as part of that, we say that we are no longer promising the stringent privacy that was associated with the original Google Groups. that the names on it are available to whoever's administering our MailChimp. That we are not intending, I'm sort of getting, okay, I'm going to start over again. That was not a motion, that was a declaration. I'm going to move that we move. Sorry, it's late. I'm tired. I got up at 6 this morning. I move that we move the MCC agenda mailing list from Google Groups to MailChimp. And as part of that, when we send out the notification that we're moving, that we say that this is going to be a no on the list, but that we are not making stringent privacy promises on this.
You broke up, Dave. Could you repeat that?
No.
Well, I didn't hear what you said.
What part did you lose?
I got the part of the MailChimp after that.
Okay, maybe I should.
I can say,
Go ahead, Michelle, you're probably better at it.
The proposal is to move the agenda mailing list from Google Groups to MailChimp. And whoever on the MCC has administrative access to MailChimp will have access to those email addresses, which is different from before.
Thank you. I agree. That's the motion. I'll second it.
And I would just also add that the email addresses will still be held. We will be using they will have very limited access to maybe 2 people on the council, and they will still be kept private, just as the newsletter email addresses are kept at this time. Yes, Greg?
I'm confused what notification we are giving to the people who are on the mailing list. Can you clarify that?
That was where I got into the declaration. So basically, I propose that as the owner of the list, I write it. That I will say that the Google Groups agenda list had some pretty stringent privacy promises made, and that while we are going to maintain privacy, that the Google Groups list had. And I'm happy if somebody on the council, in fact, I need somebody on the council to review it before I send it. So if Greg, you want to be that person.
Yeah, I'll look at it. I think Michelle might want to look at it. We'll help you just fine. All right, so that will essentially give the people the opportunity to opt out then if they don't like what they read.
Yeah, the opt out is don't sign up for MailChimp, and we'll just stop using Google Groups.
I would actually like to propose something slightly. We should actually define exactly. So I thought that we would be moving, we would send a notification, not to tell people to move over, but to tell people that we are moving their email addresses over into MailChimp.
No.
Because we will lose 90%.
Then we lose 90%.
I don't think that that's the right thing to do. I think that
actually
people can always unsubscribe from MailChimp with a single click.
Michelle, this is the whole problem with the stringent privacy problem that we made with Google Groups, and we have to get away from. I cannot do that under the terms that we agreed to set that up. As the owner, I cannot do that.
You can't do what? What promise?
I cannot hand you a list of email addresses from that list.
Because we told who, what, when?
Because we promised the privacy.
To who?
To the when the list was set up. And the previous owner of the list extracted some very strong commitments from me that I would maintain that before he turned over ownership of the list to me. So I personally am bound by that promise.
Well, anyone who's signed up since that happened hasn't been bound to those requirements. Do we have the list and the dates that people signed up?
I may. I don't know.
I think it sounds like what you're proposing, Michelle, is for people requiring them to opt out before they opted in. That's the basis of what you're proposing. And I agree with Dave. If you know, you shouldn't have to, if you opt in for a certain standard, you shouldn't have to opt out if that standard changes.
Well, as an email marketing person, I do this all the time, and people change systems all the time, and they never notify people that I'm going from MailChimp to, you know, Salesforce or a different system. So I get it. Like in this situation, I'm just telling you that a lot of people are going to be upset that they now no longer receive agendas because they're going to have missed that one email that tells them that they have to do something to keep receiving agendas.
The solution to that is to have a series of communications saying not just one, but over a period of 3 months or more, letting them know that there's going to be a change and to give them a chance to opt in to the change.
Okay, so there's a footer that goes out with the emails.
I see a thumbs up from one community member.
I changed that. I will go back to other people. There is a footer that goes out.
Not a hands up, but a thumbs up, meaning they agree with what I said.
Fine. So there is a footer on the email that goes out with the agenda, and I can put that.
They don't read footers. They don't read footers.
Dan, can I please finish?
You can, but this is a two-way conversation.
It's not a conversation. It's a statement I'm trying to make. And the agendas have a footer. I can put the note in the footer. We don't have to stop sending the agendas to the old list as soon as we ship over to MailChimp.
Well, then people will receive two, and that'll really upset them.
You can tell me as people sign up, and as the owner of the list, I can delete them from the other list. But I would propose that for 2 or maybe 3 agendas, we continue sending to both lists, and I will handle that end of things so nobody has to send twice.
How many people are on the list?
90 some.
Okay, we have almost 500 on our other mailing list. There's a good chance that there are people on both.
I think it's highly likely.
What?
Is that irrelevant? I think it is.
What? That they may be on both?
Yes.
Well,
it's irrelevant.
It's not totally irrelevant, because if someone is on the newsletter mailing list, they're not going to receive the agendas unless they go modify their preferences to check the agendas box.
We're going back to who opted in the first place.
Looks like Claire has a question.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm trying to look for my reaction thing. What if we go back to the motion that's on the table, and because that's basically what we want to do is migrate the lists and have a group, perhaps Michelle, Dave, and me decide on the mechanics of doing it?
Sure.
Would that be acceptable?
Bringing it back to the council. Is that what you mean?
No.
No.
We would approve what's on the table right now, which is to migrate the list all to MailChimp. And then we would go, then the small group would work on making sure that happens, implementing it. But
how is that not disrespecting the whole council?
Because the whole council can't do everything.
What is your concern, Dan? That
making a decision without the whole council's blessing.
So Dan, what decision explicitly are you concerned about?
Everything after the MailChimp switchover. And the privacy and everything that you have been talking about, Dave.
So we have a motion on the floor. I think Claire has proposed an amendment to it to have a.
Are you the chair, Len?
I'm just making a comment that would let us proceed. That what Claire said is in effect an amendment, and then we can vote on that.
Okay. Dave and Michelle, you're running this right now. So,
let me restate what I think your amendment was, Claire.
Okay.
Or if it even is an amendment, but I'll restate it as I hear it as an amendment. The amendment is that we agree we're moving over to MailChimp as the terms of the previous motion, but there will be an ad hoc subcommittee of 3 to decide the exact mechanism of how we move over.
That's wrong.
That's correct.
No, that's not right.
I'm asking.
That is the proposed amendment, Dan.
And I'm saying that's not right.
Well, go ahead. No, wait.
Go ahead.
Wait.
You're wrong.
Wait. Is there a second for that motion? Okay. I think we've been discussing it. Can we call for a vote on that?
Yeah, vote on the amendment.
Dan, would you please call the roll?
No, I'm not going to call the roll because the discussion is not finished.
Okay, then I'll ask.
Whoa. Don't shut down.
Len's secretary.
Hold on. I got something to say.
You are upset because of what happened earlier, Dan, and I think this is really out of line. We need to vote on this motion.
I didn't even finish you didn't even hear what I said.
I heard a lot.
Well, don't.
Okay, I call the question on this. We have to vote on whether the question has been called.
Okay, so I'm going to make an amendment.
Not until we take care of this amendment.
We're voting on this amendment. Okay.
Oh, boy. Okay.
Calling the roll. Claire?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
Jill?
Yes.
Dan?
No.
Dave?
Yes.
I vote yes, it passes 6-1. Amendment passes.
Okay, thank you. So now the original motion as amended is on the table. And
Who wants to make an amendment?
What's your amendment, Dan?
I just pull it back because looks like nobody's really concerned with my concern. So go ahead.
Okay. So we'll move for a vote.
Okay.
Okay. Dave?
Yes.
Dan?
No.
Bill?
Yes.
I'll vote yes. Michelle?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Claire?
Yes.
Passes 6-1.
Thank you. Council activity.
Yes.
Go ahead, Len.
Let's see, I have 3 things to talk about. As community member Danny Turway mentioned earlier, Parks invited basically the fire committee, Michelle, Greg, and myself to join with Nicholas and staff to walk in Quarry Park, especially to look at the progress they've made on the west side road from Dolphin down, where they've eliminated a tremendous number of eucalyptus and made quite a bit of progress from a year ago. So I thought it was both an effective walk and a good chance for people to talk to each other. So I don't know if anybody else was on the walk, wants to comment on that, then I would go to the next item I was going to talk about. Okay. There are currently three transportation items floating around, if you will, or in process. And just to review them, the one is the transportation management system, which contains the variable message signs. And with an update I received from Caltrans, they're looking to bring that back to the Planning Commission in September. The project we're talking about has been already discussed. The third is a project on the Moss Beach corridor. It's the Transportation Authority's funding of a study process. And Shonda reports that she is still working out the MOU with a consultant. So there's prospects that would be ready to go by September. Okay.
Can you give a little more information on that, please, if you can?
Which that last one?
Whatever the Moss Beach corridor.
It's well described. It's well described in the website.
Can you summarize it right now, please?
No, I can't, but you can go look at it.
There's nothing that you could give us.
No, that's been brought up many times. So I think you can read there. This is just a status update to get to an MOU.
It's not just for me, it's for the community that's listening, Len.
Okay.
Just as well I was on mute for that. Dave?
Yeah, so my council activities are on the process of obtaining all the old videos that Leonard Warren had made.
You go to mute, Dave.
What's that?
Oh, you dropped off. Couldn't hear you.
Sorry. So now I'm getting message, internet connection unstable.
Okay.
I'm going to turn off my video. So I got all the videos from Leonard Warren that he had recorded that are not on the PCTV website and therefore linked to our agendas. Somebody speak up if I'm not coming through.
I can hear you.
You're okay.
The videos, when boiled down and eliminating duplicates and eliminating ones that we already have in PCTV, were 149 MCC meetings between 1998 and 2013. Those meetings have all been processed, reviewed, and are uploaded to the MCC Google Drive. And as I find time, I will start linking them into the agenda blogs for those meetings. There were also an additional 29 recordings on various forms of the LCP between community meetings, planning commission meetings, and board of supervisor meetings, some of them here on the coast. Those have all been uploaded to our YouTube channel, which I am going to chat right now. So everybody can go look at those. It's possible that we may put those on the MCC Google Drive as well. Leonard and Greg and I are having a discussion about that. I've put my process versions of the videos on OneDrive that we authorized buying for this project. And then once I'm sure I didn't make any other mistakes, I'll hand that over to Greg. And so Greg will have that physical digital copy of all of the videos. So just want to make sure everybody knew that they were out there. If somebody wants to see the video of a particular MCC meeting that's not linked on our agenda blogs, let me know and I'll point you to it in Google Drive, unless it's one of the ones that's missing. There's a few that are partial. There's one that has one of the LCP that has no video, it only has audio. Some of them are weird sizes, but they're viewable. So that has soaked up a good 25 or 30 hours in my last couple of weeks. So I wanted to report on it.
Thank you.
And that's it.
Okay, thanks. Greg?
So you already heard that, I spoke at the Half Moon Bay City Council in place of Claire, one of their meetings. I presented background at the SEAT meeting with Dave Cosgrave on the MCC. I do want to commend Leonard Warren and Dave for their work on this video archive stuff. I'm not sure how, useful this is item by item, but I'm told that we have more extensive archives than anybody around. It's going back 20-something years. And I'm also told that the LCP stuff, which I initially didn't appreciate, may come in handy the next time we draft an LCP to see the maneuvering that the county, the Coastal Commission, and other vested interests made. It could be very important that we have that background someday. So, and then finally, I attended that hike in Quarry Park. I just wanted to augment what Len said there. There are at least 3 things that are being talked about One is the scoping study and the limitations of it, and a need for more information or another study. A second is a bunch of land that's in Quarry Park. It's adjacent to residences on El Granada Boulevard. They're calling it the Swath, and trying to get Parks to do something about it. Parks was very unclear on the process they will follow to even prioritize it. And then there's also downhill, sort of a valley there with Poison Oak that I'm pretty sure Danny Turwey and Calderon and I don't know, Len or I might end up hiking to try and prioritize some action down there. So there's just a bunch of issues hanging fire, so to speak, with respect to wildfire.
Okay, thank you. Jill.
Okay, I hope
Jill,
I
you're
don't
working
break
on
up.
this celebration thing. Yeah, I hope not either.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to report on the comment letter that was last meeting about the Pillar Point RV Park. So the Pillar Point RV Park is Half Moon Bay territory, but the lights that exist there spill across the Burnham Strip into El Granada, and it's been a constant issue since since at least 2019. In 2020, the sign was excessively lit and El Granada residents complained, and wonderful Half Moon Bay, I think her name was Brittany. She contacted the park and got the signs, the lighting changed, which was wonderful. The issue now that's going on is their existing lights are non-compliant, and there's 2 building permits right now. One's through the Harbor District and one's through the actual RV park. The Harbor District's doing the new restroom and the associated lighting. And I believe they're looking for a contractor right now. It's going out to bid. And the RV park is submitting a new landscaping and lighting plan. And Jill Ekus at Half Moon Bay Community Development Department has assured me that the lighting is going to be fully compliant and fully shielded, but we just don't know when that's going to happen. So we're having patience. That's all.
Jill, do you have anything, an update that we should be aware of on the Mid-Penn event?
Oh, yeah. Does anyone else have other things first?
Go ahead.
I just wanted to say that, yes, the lighting at the RV park has been a problem for a number of years. There was a short period of time where it was acceptable to El Granada, but clearly things have changed. And that's just a history that I know.
Okay.
Yeah. So I want to talk about the Mid-Penn booth, and I want to be quick because it's getting late. A lot of this can be communicated through emails, and I would prefer to do that since it's just an event. It's not something we really need to have.
What you prefer to do? Just let people know basically what you're doing and what kind of help you need from us.
Okay. I sent an email. Did you get it with a quick sketch? Okay. Sorry about that. I'm working really long hours.
That's fine.
You can see what I'm going for, though. We have all the equipment and materials to actually build the booth. Dan has a big pop-up. I have a little one. We have tables. We have chairs. We've got tablecloths. We've got all that stuff. What we need to do is figure out what we want to present to the community and look for the visuals. So we need to have, maybe we want to have a map. Maybe Dave could ask the Historical Society to borrow some things on the history, and maybe we could get some native plants. Claire could talk about native plants. We just got to know what we want to show as visuals, because visuals are huge with a booth. And one of the things we need for this booth is a sign. So I want to ask for funds to buy a booth sign, and I want to ask for funds to buy, to produce and print a postcard, 500 postcards, and both of those would be through Vista Print, unless somebody else has a better site.
But why don't we bring that to the next meeting and ask for an authorization for that to be
We
spent?
don't have time. So if we wait 2 weeks and then we may not have.
It's an agenda item if you're going to spend more than $50.
Can we split them into 3?
Are we going to have a special meeting that could be covered to cover this?
Okay, never mind. Then we won't have one. Okay.
I think it's pretty important to have a good presence at a booth like this. I totally agree with the need to spend money, but I know we have to follow the rules in terms of approving it with an agenda item. I would also ask that one of the things that I have been thinking about and talking to Claire about a bit is our MCC logo, which we don't have one. If we're going to be spending money to print items, it'd be really nice if we had a logo as well. But I've asked for members of the community to volunteer to help create a logo and haven't had any takers. I'm not really a logo designer, so I can't really do it myself without a small budget for that too.
Jill, I have an aerial photo of the coast side, which includes Pacifica, but it also includes all the coast side and the harbor and everything. From the, I think it was from the, I want to say 60s. Anyway, it's just a historic photo. Pretty good.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I want to say it's like 24 inches by 30 inches, approximately. Nice size photo, easy to see. And I will help you. We can talk later about timing, but certainly want to help you. As far as you mentioned the pop-up tent, I think I saw somewhere that they were going to provide one, so I don't have to worry about that. Is that correct?
Okay. I don't know.
They did say that.
I haven't got a phone call back.
They did say they would provide something.
We'll go over that, make sure everything's checked off. Jill,
I agree that we should put some budget toward this or toward promotional materials in general and maybe have that at the next meeting. I'm sure there's something we can get between the next meeting and the event.
We can. It'll just cost more money. Yeah. Okay.
We're working on bringing that to the next meeting and actually voting on it and getting you some money. We can do that.
What's the amount that does not require a vote? Was it $50?
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
I think so.
I thought it was actually 25.
I thought it was changed, but I could be wrong.
We can't hear you, Dave.
Okay, Len, you had something else you wanted to bring up, Len?
Yes, there was a fire safe meeting this morning. So I reported on the activities for Zone 5, which is the larger area we're in, with emphasis on El Granada and the scoping plan. In addition, David Cosgrave was there again, introducing himself as sort of a lead coordinator for wildfire. So he's a welcome presence there. Would hope to see him at our meeting in that role soon. There are citizens and work to support them, trying to get additional information to understand the model. So that's an ongoing effort. And I think I'm advised by RCD that they plan to reconstitute the partner team or some group like that to work for wildfire projects across the Midcoast.
Okay. Steve and Gus were having reports from council members right now on things that they're working on. Did you each have something that you needed, that you felt you wanted to add to this, Steve?
Just very quickly, to add a little note of levity, I'm very glad to hear that you're capturing those videos that Leonard took way back when. Leonard volunteered himself to do that, and he took that job very seriously. And for a little bit of entertainment value, some of you may want to go back and look. Leonard was also very vocal. And so you may want to look at when he had to make a comment, how he would manage the camera before and after he made his comment. That's my little note of levity. Thank you for letting me say that.
Hey, Steve. And Gus?
Yeah, sorry to Michelle's comment about logos. The person who designed the logo for my campaign, I could ask her to do a couple drafts of one or something. Is that helpful?
That would be awesome.
Okay.
Yeah.
Happy to do it.
Thanks.
If you want to put her in touch with me, we could chat about ideas.
Sure. Happy to do it.
And one last comment. I was surfing on YouTube just a few days ago when suddenly an MCC meeting from 1998 popped up. That was sort of cool and very surprised.
Yeah, I put those 3 meetings on our YouTube channel as well.
Next meeting, we're already committed to 2 things. One is the letter that you guys are going to be writing about the highway. And the other is a presentation from graywateraction.org about things that people can do themselves to manage water usage. That those 2 things together may take up most of the meeting, but we still have issues about fire and about Cypress Point that we need to work in at some point fairly soon. So I don't know what thoughts people have. Okay. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
I'll second that.
Yeah, could you call the roll on that?
Yes.
Uh-oh.
Claire moved.
I moved.
No, I didn't.
Michelle moved.
And Greg seconded.
So Claire,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Len,
Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
Jill,
Yes.
and I say yes.
All right.
Thank you. We are
Good night,
adjourned.
everyone.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.